Will the Utah Jazz make the NBA playoffs in 2023?
I think right now you're probably just a touch short. I think, you could contend to be a play-in team, but I think when you look at this roster, you have to see how these guys gel. It's hard for me to say whether you could get into the mid-30s or low 40s with this team because none of these guys have played together really, and I think that you have to see how Will Hardy does, and there's a lot at play. It's the first season of this group playing together, so I think the question of will these guys get to the playoffs or where are the Utah Jazz going? I think it's really tough to answer right now, but what I don't think is tough to answer is that we know what the goal is, which is to play up-tempo basketball. I mean, that's what, we've been telling you from, since they started making deals. That's what is very clear with the way this roster is built. So to me, it makes perfect sense that you're going to be this team that's, probably not going to win a ton of games, but you're going to play exciting basketball. And so for Jazz fans, I feel like, how do you feel about that? Is that acceptable? Is that, annoying? Is that, where do you come down on that? Because for me, this was always going to be the case. When you signed that Rudy Gobert contract, what was that, 2 years ago, I guess that would have been now or whatever. Once you signed that deal, it was always going to be the case that you were inevitably going to have to get that deal off your books, and at that point, you were going to have a decision whether you wanted to burn it down or not.
But
so now we're here.
What would an acceptable win total be? Because I think one of the questions you have to ask is, what is this Utah Jazz team trying to do? Like, what is the effort? What is the energy? Where are you spending your money? And what are you hoping to get for that? Because I think that is something that, honestly, if we're truth-telling about this team, I don't know the answer to that question. Like, we've seen a lot of curious moves. I mean, you understood what was going on with Rudy. You just couldn't afford to keep that contract on your books. Don, you got to haul in return. What do you do with Bojan Bogdanovic in that trade? That trade makes very little sense to me. Mm-hmm. You look at what's left on this roster. Why is Mike Conley still here? It is very curious to me that the Jazz, after the Donovan trade, it almost seemed like they were done. They took a deep breath and they were like, okay, our work is done here. Oh, you want Bojan? Here, throw in a bag of balls and we'll make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this felt like to me. Like, hey, we won the other two, so we can take a loss here.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt like they hit the pause button.
Yeah, and I completely disagree with that because I think that every move you make sends a message to your fan base. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I also think that this Bojan trade, I mean, it makes you 2 for like 7 or 8 this offseason because if you throw Bojan into a really, and I don't even think I'm being dramatic, a disastrous uniform unveiling, just a lack of fan passion or caring at this point.
I'm going to say this again.
Because I don't get the general idea that Jazz fans are exactly excited for the season to start.
Yeah.
I don't. And if you look at what teams like the Nets, the Knicks, the Lakers, the Celtics, like all the turmoil that those teams have, yet their fan bases are plugged in and engaged. I don't get the idea that Utah Jazz fans are particularly happy, Jake, with where this team is right now.
Facts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard to be excited because it's the unknown, and it kind of feels like you're just going through the ringer again. It feels like, oh, we climbed the ladder with Don and Rudy, and now we're going back down the ladder again. It kind of feels like we're in that part of the cycle, if you will, and I think the difference is like with Media Day. Media Day is a great example in this conversation. Like, the Utah Jazz are not interested in having some huge media day. They're not interested in lighting up their practice facility. And the reason for that is, there's several reasons, but I think the main reason for that is because they don't want to talk about things. They don't want to just kind of air out their dirty laundry and say, yeah, this is who we are in a real honest fashion. Like in a few minutes here, we're going to get to what all the other teams did. And you're going to see there's a real sense of like bluntness to what these guys are talking about. It's not like just a press conference. They're like in their practice facility talking about issues and goals and, just everything at play. And I really felt like yesterday, the Jazz just kind of did the bare minimum. And I'm not trying to sit here and criticize them and hate on them, but it really felt like, hey, we're just going to live stream some interviews and that's kind of it. And not only did you just live stream some interviews for 7 hours on YouTube, which is fine, the quality of that audio was so bad that we're not going to play any of it today. There was so much white noise on the audio, like, buzzing, if you will, that you can't really listen to it comfortably.
That's
frustrating.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Yesterday and I kid you not, if you watched any of the live stream of the media session, you could not really enjoy it because there was so much noise. And this goes back to this mentality that I talk about all the time. Listen, if you want to be a small market team, act like a small market team. If you want to be a major market team and you want to be the Lakers or the Celtics or the Chicago Bulls or the New York Knicks, act like it.
Y'all feel me?
It is unacceptable that you had a massive media event, one of the most important events of the summer, of the offseason, was yesterday at Media Day, and it was unbearable to listen to. You couldn't really get any information out of their interview sessions because the line was so poorly constructed.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I thought was disappointing was the elephant in the room was not talked about.
Yeah.
There was no questions that were really pointed. Yet if I go to LA, if I go to Brooklyn and I get Kevin Durant, who you're going to hear from in a bit, I get Kevin Durant talking about the fact that he didn't believe in the direction of the organization and that he didn't want to play for Steve Nash anymore because he saw things that he didn't understand. I get, Jaylen Brown talking about how he was stunned and it hurt him that Ime Udoka did what he did and was suspended for a year.
Yeah.
I get all of these teams. I get LeBron James saying anything less than a championship is a disappointment year in and year out in Los Angeles. You know what I got from the Jazz? I quite literally got white noise on a live stream. So I really don't know what Will Hardy had to say. It was that bad. And the other thing that is very clear is the Jazz don't want to talk about their baggage. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think it's not the mistakes you make, it's how you handle them that define who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Jazz, they've clearly had missteps this summer. They haven't talked about them openly and honestly, so it leaves questions lingering. There's nobody asking hard, true questions because the Jazz own the media in this town. And I think that matters, Jake, because it continues the narrative that this organization is operating like a minor league basketball team.
Yeah, and I think that the bigger thing to me, and this is sort of a big picture thing. The bigger issue to me is that there's no pressure for them to act like a major market team. That's the thing to me. Like, imagine the climate that you would have in the sports landscape here if the media leaned on the Jazz and were like, hey, like, you asking like real hard-nosed questions, like, hey, notice that everybody's wearing purple today. Where's the yellow jersey? Where's the black jersey?
Well, I think that's a very interesting point by you. It wasn't lost on 9 out of 10 people that there were no yellow jerseys yesterday.
Yeah, like and that's kind of what I mean. It's to me, like, what I would say to the Utah Jazz and their front office team or whatever, their media people, however you want to characterize it, the people that handle things like media day and things like media relations, just talk about it. Just say, hey, yeah, you know what? We thought the highlighter yellow would be great, but it turns out it just didn't work out great for us. So we're going to play this season with them, and then we'll probably have a fresh rebrand or a fresh colorway or whatever you want to say. Like, I get it. It's never fun to talk about, have an egg on your face, essentially. That's not fun to do, but at some point we all do it. And so my frustration really isn't even with the jersey thing. It's more about, like, there's a lot to talk about. Like, I don't think it's a stretch to say this was the most important event in the franchise's history. Like, I don't think that's a stretch to say with where you are. Think about it. You just traded potentially the best duo you've had. Potentially, like, if you put Rudy and Don up against, Stockton and Malone, there are people that would tell you Rudy and Don would win that matchup.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
So to me, you just traded away, arguably the best duo you've had in the franchise's history, and I think the best player you've ever had in the franchise's history, all winning aside, and you're doing your media day, and we get white noise on a line. We don't get the practice facility filled up. I can't hear what your coaches are saying. Like, it's not...
It's frustrating.
And so for me,
it is frustrating.
When I look around the league, because again, remember, I'm not a Jazz fan. We just cover this team. So I have the ability to say, okay, here's where the Jazz are. Here's where the rest of the league is. Like, we're going to laugh our ass off today at something Kawhi did. during his media day, and it's funny as hell. But we don't get those moments with the Jazz, and I think that's a mistake. That's what I think the issue is.
I think when you watch the way the rest of the league was put together, let me play this LeBron bite. And we're going to talk Lakers in a while, but I want you to understand how the rest of the teams in this league handled media day, and then compare that to what you got from the Jazz. Here's LeBron James talking about winning as a Laker.
Injuries, unfortunate circumstances. Right. Are you motivated to get back to that spot?
Absolutely. There's definitely a chip on my shoulder, a chip on our shoulder. And, just wearing this uniform is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable not to be able to compete for a championship. And I know that's long-term, and that's something that we're not going to talk much about. But listen, I can look right up there, and it speaks for itself.
There they are.
Right? See, that's LeBron James on what did you see in that picture? And here's why this matters. That's LeBron James talking about the expectation is winning, being asked those questions on the Los Angeles Lakers television channel.
Yeah, another great point.
Wearing their new gold uniform. So they handled media day well on their own TV channel wearing their uniform, talking about, and in that interview, it was a wide-ranging interview where he talked about they've lost far too much.
Yeah.
We have not accomplished or achieved. And it's remarkable that then you flip over and you watch the Jazz, who are live streaming on YouTube, which is a viable platform, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you completely botch that. So all of this to say, I actually think there's a lot of exciting things around the Utah Jazz. I actually think the players in this group on this roster is truly exciting, and I'm actually looking forward to preseason NBA. I'm looking forward to the season tipping off because I want to see what Jared Vanderbilt turns into.
Yeah.
I want to see, hey, is Jared Butler a bust? Is he done? I want to see, hey, how long is Malik Beasley on this team? How long is Mike Conley on this team? How long does it take Danny to turn this thing around and get back to winning?
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of exciting storylines that the Utah Jazz are hiding from. And that's the thing that I don't understand. Why are you hiding from that when we've got Boston Celtic players yesterday talking openly, honestly, and directly about Ime Udoka?
Yeah.
When we've got Kevin Durant talking about why he demanded a trade, and Kyrie Irving saying, hey, dude, guess what? When I put I picked up my player option, it was really awkward that right away Kevin Durant, asked for a trade. Like, they're having all these great, open, honest discussions, and we don't know what...
about things that are, frankly, a lot more difficult to talk about than where you are as an organization. Like, the Ime Udoka stuff is hard to talk about.
And we're hiding yellow uniforms.
So that's why I say...
What are we doing?
It's not like... and I always say this, and I say it because I want to emphasize it. Like, we're not... The plan, when we were talking about this in the vaunted pre-show meeting behind the scenes, was not to... hey, we're just going to roll out and criticize the organization, but I do think it warranted talking about it because it was just such a stark contrast. And I even think with some of these other clips, like the feel of it, like media day is supposed to be at your practice facility with a full slate of like booths and fun things to do.
They streamed for like 6, 7, 8 hours.
And I'm cool with that. I'm fine with it.
Jake, it was 7 hours, 8 hours.
I know, but the problem is you're
amazing.
Missing everything, dude.
What?
I get it. You sent your guys out to a soccer pitch, and everyone thought that was the best thing since sliced bread.
A soccer pitch.
Cool. Ryan owns RSL. We get it. There's a built-in relationship. That was easy for you guys, but I'm telling you right now, it's about doing things you don't want to do. You don't want to pay people to set up a full media day. You don't want to pay an audio tech to make sure that the audio line doesn't have a bunch of white noise on it, and I can actually hear Colin Sexton and Will Hardy talking about what they hope this season is going to be. That's the problem.
Less of us, more of you. What did you think of Jazz Media Day? Was this a big deal? Are you excited about the Jazz? What are your thoughts on the Utah Jazz? We're going to get those in 15 seconds after you hear from the Advocates.
You've been in an accident and now you're injured. Though it wasn't your fault, you now have to deal with getting your car fixed, mounting medical bills, and insurance companies who don't play fair. But don't worry. The experienced team at the Advocates are here to get you the support you need.
There you go. Make sure you get to UtahAdvocates.com. The Monty Show, always presented by the Advocates, Utah injury attorneys. UtahAdvocates.com. Don't forget, you never come out of your pocket to work with the advocates. You only pay the advocates once they win your case. Free consultations, no big retainers. Listen, the advocates know that you didn't deserve to be in an accident, but you need somebody to fight for you when you've been in an accident. That's why you go to the advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. Let's get your thoughts in here on the Utah Jazz. Are you excited about the Jazz? Are you looking forward to the season starting? First one in this morning, Kurt Myers. Kurt, good to see you, my friend. Dave Heath, how are you? Eric in Raleigh says, will the Jazz make the playoffs? LOL, no. No. Is it such a ridiculous question to ask? Look, Kawhi. Wait till you hear this new Kawhi laugh. It is. Kawhi Leonard yesterday was unintentionally amazing.
Hey, Claw.
My point is it a ridiculous question to ask if the Utah Jazz are going to make the NBA playoffs?
Well, I don't think it's a ridiculous question. I don't think it's like unfounded, but I think the problem is, they're not the problem, but like the crux of the situation, the conversation is that all offseason, what have we been hearing? We've got Danny Ainge, we've got Justin Zanuck, even Ryan Smith at one point, talking about how the goal is to win championships. And, you know, like Danny and Justin, as an example, are basically mirror images of themselves in the media, basically just saying that they didn't feel like that Donovan and Rudy were championship quality, which, by the way, I do agree with, and I appreciate that 100%. But I think that the Utah Jazz, I don't know, man, you just have to do it like bigger and better.
You do.
I really, when I was thinking about this conversation last night, you know, I was really struggling with the concept of this is an NBA organization.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like the XFL. This isn't like minor league sports. This isn't
XFL.
Yeah, this isn't like, you know, live golf, right? This isn't like some minor league, doesn't matter, who cares type thing, right? That's not what this is. This is the NBA, man. This is Salt Lake City. Like, I feel like sometimes that's lost on the organization. Like, hey, you are the big ticket in town, with all due respect to BYU and Utah. Like, when the Jazz are hot, this is a basketball town. And I don't think anyone disagrees with that. So when I talk about this stuff, I just come from a place of like, I just want more, because I know you can do more. I know you're capable of more. And you have a new owner who allegedly is some tech billionaire. Like, start acting like it. Start doing things. That's what I want. So can they make the playoffs? I don't know. Are they going to start operating like a major market team? Is the rebuild only going to take 2 years like it would in Boston or maybe Los Angeles or, you know, other markets who could be aggressive? I don't know. That's why I think this big market question matters so much, because if you operate like a small market team, it's probably going to take you 5 or 6 years. If you get aggressive and you actually come through, then it'll probably take you 2 seasons. So can they make the playoffs this year? Probably not. Right? Can they be exciting? Yeah, probably. They're probably going to be fun to watch, but that doesn't mean you're a winning basketball team.
I think that there's a better chance that the Jazz can make the playoffs than people give them credit for. And obviously, Eric's being sarcastic, but I think they can make the playoffs. I think they can be a play-in team. I do. And we'll have to see what happens at the trade deadline. And because I'm a little surprised that Mike Conley's here. You know, I've heard a lot that Mike Conley, just didn't have a genuine suitor. That they would like to have traded him. And I think he would have been involved in a Bojan Lakers trade. But the Lakers didn't want to give up that extra draft pick. So he's not. Kenai Johnson, good morning, KJ. Top of the morning, fellas. So it looks like we're keeping Clarkson and Conley as of now. I think Jordan Clarkson genuinely wants to be here.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers wanted him, and I think the Jazz didn't want to deal him. Honestly, Neville93, what's up, buddy? Says, yes, Jazz talk.
Yes, sir.
We like it. Jesse Harsh says, morning, boys. So you mean our young ragtag group of misfits and scrappy underdogs and a rookie coach with nothing but a ball and a dream? Yeah, 12th seed. Wow.
Damn, bro.
Jesse Harsh is
tell
in.
Tell me how you really feel, bro.
He is in. Billy Lee, good morning to you. He says, definitely not. I think around 25 wins.
Well, I mean, that may be a reality. I don't know. I think the trade deadline is also going to be a big deal for this team. And I think that, you know, overall, you have this situation where they need to continue to make moves. My biggest fear right now is kind of what you were describing earlier. Like, hey, you made the Don deal, you made the Rudy deal, you made the Royce deal, and you made the Bogdanovich deal. We have our opinions on those. But my point is that, okay, now we're at the starting line. If you really think about this, you had to move that money. You had to change your organization and lower your cap hit so you could bring on flexibility. Justin Zanuck has talked all about that in his one-on-one or whatever that they did, oddly enough, at the practice facility. Like, so being that you have flexibility and you're a young team and you're, probably a 25 to 35 win team right now, my point is, what's next? What is the direction? Because it's not good enough just to sit here now and meddle at 25 wins. That's my big concern. We heard all about how you got a ton of draft picks now. You've got a war chest of capital and assets and things to make deals with. Okay, so you're going to start the season like this, totally understandable. But by the trade deadline, I would expect this team to look a little different. I would expect this team to have made another couple of deals, So that's my biggest fear, is that they're just kind of going to chill right now and just kind of see how the season plays out and not do anything at the deadline or not do anything significant. I'm sure they will make deals, but nothing significant.
I think one of the things that's really clear to me, and I don't know what you guys think about this, but one of the things that's very clear to me is on the floor, this team won't be boring.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that could be a saving grace for this team. But you look at comments like this, definitely not 25 wins. That doesn't give you a lot of hope that the fan base is excited. But if you're a Utah Jazz fan, I would tell you to be excited.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to have a lot of interesting players on this roster and a lot of good things to look at. I would be excited about what this Jazz team is doing.
Yeah.
But these events leading up to it, I think, they're not exciting. Teddy Wayman, good morning to you. He says, good morning, guys. No, I don't think the Jazz will make the playoffs. Mark Rasmussen, good to see you. 9th seed. Jeremy Bolton, what's up, bud? Good to see you. Sebastian Almeida says the talent is there. I think they will play to win, and whatever the end result is, they're good with it. If the playoffs are in, then someone was better than advertised. If not, more lottery balls.
Yeah, but to me,
more lottery balls.
But to me as a Jazz fan, I wouldn't be happy with that mentality. I'm not even saying you're wrong about that mentality.
No, I don't think he's wrong at all.
That may very well be the case, but to me, that was not the bill of goods we were sold. The bill of goods we were sold was, hey, yes, we got to make changes. We got to get our money back in the right place, but we're going to turn this thing around, really inside of 2 or 3 seasons. That was kind of the messaging. So if that is the mentality, I do have a problem with that. I got to be honest, because we weren't having a conversation about, well, if we make the playoffs, cool. If not, then we'll be a lottery team. That basically what you're saying there is the end result doesn't really matter. I mean, right? If that's essentially
there's
what
truth
we're
in that.
what you're
Absolutely.
saying. If you're like, hey, yeah, cool. If we make the playoffs, if not, we're a lottery team. Well, yeah,
But
thanks.
Isn't that the worst part about where the Jazz are? People are writing you off. You're not. I think your chances are better because I think, truth be told, I think you still have several deals you're going to make. I can't believe a year from now Malik Beasley's still on this roster. I can't believe when the NBA trade deadline passes that Mike Conley's still on this roster, that these veterans are still here, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to have those guys on your team. I also truly do not believe that the Utah Jazz are tanking. I don't see that.
Yeah.
I think the Jazz are absolutely rebuilding. I don't see that this team is tanking in any way, shape, or form, because, again, I think when you're putting all of your hopes and dreams on a 7-footer that weighs 114 pounds, you're in a world of hurt. And I think Danny Ainge said it best when he said, hey, I'm too old to completely, tank and rebuild this team.
But now, let me tell you what now.
That's the God's honest truth.
Point.